Hey guys, how's it going again? Well, I'm in the middle of a job that I have been dreading to do, and it's just got to the point that I had to do it. And what I'm doing is I am putting spark plugs in this Infiniti. I'm about halfway through the job. I've got the right side done, and this is what we have to work with over here as far as space goes. It's like your typical foreign car. It's got you know, even if this is a 4-cylinder, the layout's kind of the same. If it's got dual overhead cams, this one's got 2 cams on each side, so the spark plugs go down the center right there between them. See one right down in there. So space is not too generous here, and the other side, I ain't even got the other side part yet, so I don't know what I'm going to be involved with on that one, but it's not been too bad. I've already done this one earlier. I know that sounds a little unusual, but these spark plugs started failing, and so that was the one that came up that it was starting to miss and all that kind of stuff. So I could get to that one the easiest, so I took the low hanging fruit, the lazy way out, and just replaced that one. But of course all the rest of them are not far behind it, so I'll show you what happens. Is this, let me just tell you too, this car uses these super platinum tritium palladium spark plugs. Some door closing from the wind right there. Depending on which ones you buy, they're either not too expensive or really expensive. You know, spark plugs, let me just tell you this, spark plugs are like anything else. You have a ton of choices and you can spend as much money as you want to, but in the end you're probably not going to notice any difference in it. So what it had in it was, of course, it had these Bosch platinum plugs in it. See these here. This is one that's, yep, it's caught here in the sun. Bangs and crashes. You hear that all the time around here. But anyway, this is the thing here. There we go. Got a direct light. Anyway, so I've read plenty of things about not using these kind of plugs. Of course, that's what's in them, and they say they fall apart, and I didn't know what they meant by that. But if you look at the tip of this thing, you notice that there's no electrode there. There's a hole there where electrode should be, but the electrode is broken out of there. Just a little thin little thing. It's broken out of there and it's gone. So the gap opens up like 3 times as wide as it should be. I'll show you. I think there's one here that still has somewhat of an yeah, this one's still got a little bit of one. See if we can focus. This camera's like a lot of them. It wants to focus on what's behind you instead of what you're trying to look at. Let's go do this. Well, well, anyway, maybe you could see that, but there's just a very little bit of an electrode, and it's mostly burned off there. So, out of 4 plugs on that side, 3 of them were blown out. The electrodes was gone out of them, so that ain't good. So I don't know how many miles these plugs got on them. They're supposed to be in there for, you know, they're 100,000 mile plugs, so I don't know. But they've been in there a while because they were kind of tough to get out, and that's part of the reason why I didn't want to mess with this, is because I kind of have a paranoia about spark plugs. That sounds kind of stupid, but you know, these are aluminum heads, and you know, if something goes wrong, I'm not even going to say it. And so, but anyway, everything's been behaving so far, so I'm ready to put that right side back together. And where I got the cover, the engine cover and everything's off, is back there. And here's the left side. Yeah, looks like actually, once I get this intake assembly off here, looks like that I've got a little bit more room over here. Of course, you got plugs, coil-on-plug ignition. There's your coil packs. So okay, that's what's going on. And boy, I tell you what, this thing sure needed it. I put this off too long. Man, it got so bad. I drove 1,440 miles this past week in 5 days. I ran a vacation route for a guy, and you can see how nasty my car is. Ran a vacation route for a guy, and he's the longest route. So, you know, between just driving where he goes and then adding in driving from my house down here, it just tacks up. But anyway, it was a long ride and a lot of interstate driving. This thing just got so bad that you try to push down on the gas to go faster, and you wouldn't go faster. You just start cutting out so bad you'd slow down. So nope, it's got to be done. Time's over. So the next thing I'll need to do to it, besides wash it, is you see all this crap here on this. See all that on that hose? That's the radiator. I've been telling you a couple different times about that. See, it's seeping around the top tank. So radiator's coming up soon. I could drive my truck, but I really just don't want to beat my truck up running this kind of stuff. So yeah, you can see right here it's here too. So I've been losing the coolant, staying down there. And you know, let me just get into this briefly. You know, people that have Infinitis, I've said before that the folks that own Infinitis, especially newer ones, they're very elitist, and I'll define that word for you. It just means they're, you know, they think they're a little bit different, a little bit better than everybody else. So that's fine. Doesn't bother me much. But the thing about it is, if you ever go on one of these forums for Nissan and Infiniti, it just kills these folks if you tell them that you're doing anything besides just taking it to the dealer. I get a pleasure out of telling them how cheaply I fix this car whenever something goes wrong with it. Because like when I did brakes on it, the brakes cost me $63 for the back pads and rotors, because I did it myself. And they'll say, well, you shouldn't use cheap stuff like that. You'll be going back to you'll be buying those again, and you'll be taking them back, and you won't be happy. You should just went to the dealer and got the original Infiniti parts. And you hear that all the time. Oh, just get the original stuff from the dealer. Take it to the dealer and have it done. You're going to mess something up. Well, got news for you. I've put about 37,000 miles on those brakes since March, and I hadn't had the first complaint out of them. And what I'm about to do next is, with this radiator deal, if you go to the dealer and have a radiator put in this car, there's probably about, you know, they always find other stuff to stick you with. That's part of upselling. If anybody's ever been in a job like that, you know what upselling is. That means you take a customer comes in with a car like this, and it's an older car, and they say, well, I need a new radiator put in, and that's what I need done. And then, so you tell right away, you know that they don't know jack about cars, so you know there's going to be an easy upsell job. So you stick around back there for a little while, even if you know that putting a radiator in and refilling the coolant is just going to be all it needs. It's fine. You go back out there and you put on your somber face. You say, well, you know, boy, those radiator hoses, I just hate to be out there with those old radiator hoses, and you got some belts that are kind of getting a little old looking, cracky. You know, you really ought to do, you know, it being winter, you really ought to do that. And you know, if you're man, it's New York Central around here. This street sucks, man. This neighborhood and this street and this city just suck. The most of anything ever sucked. Can't stand it. Where do these people go all the time? Nose to tail. Anyway, they'll say, well, you know, if you're gonna put coolant in it, you better go ahead and, you know, do this and do that. And then, you know, the innocent in there, the neophyte, and he doesn't know, or she doesn't know any better. She, okay, whatever you think's best, Mr. Service Writer. And then they've jacked the thing up from doing maybe a $360 radiator replacement job, which it probably wouldn't be that, because, you know, a $130 radiator gets marked up to $250 or something like that. But anyway, this job that may go for $300 to $500 gets up to $700-800. We had to put all this stuff on it. You just come see us when you need anything else. So fortunately, I don't subscribe to that line of BS, and I fix my cars myself. You know, if I do something wrong and it dumps me on the side of the road, it's my fault, and I'll take the blame for it. But I'm not about to go write a $600, $700, $800 check for a car that I've only paid $1,500 for. So I'll put a radiator in, and I'm going to get one cheap somewhere. I think they got one on eBay that's from a highly rated place for like $63. So I may do that, or I may buy a little bit more expensive one from the parts store that's got where I can take it back locally. I don't know yet. So, but anyway, that's what I want to say about that. You know, that's everybody. You know, nobody will touch a car like this to buy it used because they've heard so much bullshit that's incorrect. You know, well, they're expensive to work on. They're hard to work on. It's hard to find parts for them. It is not. It's a freaking Nissan. Let's look right here. See that? So everybody just dispense with all that crap, believing that crap. Well, maybe the new ones are hard to work on. I don't know. This ain't a new one. But an old one like this, stuff's cheap as can be for it. The only expensive thing that this car could have go wrong with it would be the struts collapse, and they're expensive because they're only, I think they're specific to this car, and you have to get them probably from overseas, I guess. But and yeah, there's some stuff that's difficult to fix, but you know, like valve cover gaskets and things like knock sensors, it needs knock sensors, and they're buried under that intake under there. So, you know, yeah, it can be difficult to work on. So I guess saying that, I wouldn't advise somebody to buy one of these cars. If you're not a capable mechanic, you can't do stuff on your own, and you probably don't need one. You need something simple like a Corolla. But this car so far, this thing has been dead nuts reliable. So, you know, we can put some of that BS that we hear about these cars to bed. So anyway, guys, I got to get going on this and finish up that side and do the other one. So see you around. Bye.